This call is now. I hope we could hear that.
Yeah. We've never heard it.
Dave and Cam, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. Our awesome freaking community is coming out with question after question. And I feel bad because it's tough to pick the most important question, but also questions that I feel like resonate with anyone in the Thundr family. But this week, man, we had a lot of questions and actually too specific. And the reason, Cam, that I want you on this one specifically is because a lot of the ladies have so many awesome freaking questions. So of course, Dave, I want your input, but Cam, this is really for you, okay? Let me pull this up. Give me 1 second. Where the gosh darn heck did I put this? There's just so many questions I don't know where to go from. Okay, here we go. So it's kind of like a two-parter because we had someone piggyback. So, and excuse me if I mispronounce your name. I think it's Elo or Elo. Her question is mainly for women's health. Sorry, guys. But how does your period affect your metabolism? Is it normal to feel less powerful, less energetic? And how can I work around that to make the most of my training? And then to piggyback, Meredith Kopp would love to hear thoughts on coming back postpartum.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. By the way, Meredith's been doing amazing.
Yeah,
like
consider checking.
she is like at 130. Her physics doing so good, and she started with like 175. So little shout out. So okay, so let's talk about the cycle. So when you look at the girl cycle, there is fluctuation of different hormones through the cycle, and depending on how sensitive you are to those hormones and kind of how your body is, like different things will start affecting. So when you get your period, like 2 days before that, all your hormones crash. So that's why girls get super moody there, because especially hormones like progesterone, like they really affect your brain, and that's kind of your happy hormone. So when it crashed down, it's like, it's just a lot for your body to rebalance itself. So the first 2 weeks pretty much of your period, it's kind of your hormones start to ramp back up. And normally the first 2 weeks is pretty steady. But you're gonna, like, certain things you're gonna feel is like you might not feel as flexible. But there's really no, there's no danger or anything there when it comes to like training. And then when you ovulate, you have a big spike of all your hormones. So what you'll feel on those days during ovulation is, sometimes you'll feel a little foggy, a little tired, but your hormones are all the way to the top. So it's like great time to put muscle on, which is a little weird, right? Because it's like, because you have this big spike when you ovulate, you feel like, I'm tired, I'm foggy, but it really is just like, those 2-3 days of now I have so much like estrogen and progesterone, like everything is up to the top. But I would say the only thing to be careful there is if you're hyper flexible, your ligament gets like really flexible. So for me, I'm very flexible. So I would often get hurt during my ovulation time because everything gets a little lax. So that's a great time to push really hard on the bodybuilding, specifically type of training, because you have all those hormones really high, ready to build. And then after ovulation, then everything ramps up to like, so it's like ovulation is like a big peak, then it kind of comes down, and then it ramps up. And that's where you get like a very, very high increase in progesterone and estrogen. Mommy, and yes, my love. Okay, we'll learn about Sam in 1 second. And then when those hormones ramp up, like what you'll see is, especially with the progesterone, it increase your basal, your
Core temperature.
Your core temperature, your body basal temperature. I don't know.
Where do you stick the thermometer to get that reading?
It does increase your metabolism. Okay, your body gets warmer with like more progesterone. So often, like especially when it comes to like So overall, when it comes to training, like bodybuilding is the safest thing you can do across the board because movements are control and we're building muscle. So I would say there's no reason you should not lift through your cycle. Like outside, like, okay, you know, you have so much cramping that like you need to lay in bed when you get your period. Like outside that, the muscle will always help with your hormones. The lifting will always help with your hormones. Now, what you see when it's time to lose weight or body fat is you do see like a 2-week cycle difference a little bit in your metabolism. I would say do not change anything, but on the first 2 week of your cycle, it might be a little harder for some to lose weight there. And then on the second 2 weeks, the metabolism ramp up and it might be a little easier to lose weight there. And you kind of see like that cycle. And I mean, that's coming from me having worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of women. But if you're very consistent with the diet and very consistent with the training, that above all helps to regulate your metabolism more than anything else. And then it helps your hormones fall in line. So, you know, the biggest thing across the board is always consistency. Does that make sense?
And listen, I learned a little bit of something that, so I'm sure if any of the ladies are listening to it, they're going to get a huge understanding of that. But I do want to hear a little bit on coming back postpartum, though, for Meredith.
Yes. Yeah. So coming back postpartum, you know, look at my phone. You know, you're constantly like divided in half, like doing.
Listen, any of the parents listening to this, they're going to relate super hard to this. So this is perfect. Candid moments.
We're all the same. Oh, that's so funny. You know, coming back postpartum, I think the biggest thing I encourage people to do is to give yourself a lot of grace and go slow and accept where you're starting from. There is, you know, for a mom, it's different than dad. But it's like overnight, a version of herself die and we become someone new. And it like really happens overnight, right? It's like for a dad, you're like, right, you're there, you're helping, you know, your wife, your partner, whatever. But for her, and you know, the biology and everything, it's like I went from like being pregnant, you know, having this idea after of like, oh, you know, take me 2 months and I'll get back in the gym and all that, to like once that baby come out is like, forget it. Like I'm a whole new person. This comes above everything else. Like there's so much I need to do to provide for this little thing. Also, I can't believe that they let me take care of this little thing. You know, I still feel like a child myself. And then through all of that, you know, there's the sleep, and then there's, you know, the recovery of the body. And then the biggest thing I would say when it comes to postpartum is like the hormonal shift is just insane. And like the regularizing the hormones after that, it like takes a while. And the hormones affect everything inside you. So they affect your brain, they affect how you hold weight, they affect your stress. So there's like a whole other, you know, there's a whole other like part of it that we need to deal with that I don't think is talked enough about, but it really is how to spiritually take care of yourself and really like take time off to, you know, kind of ground yourself. And like, I love meditation and, you know, prayers and whatever spiritual practice you can have when it comes to postpartum. I think that's so important for women to kind of just discover the new person they have become and then accept where they are. And then we can start, you know, when it comes to like the food, the nutrition, the training. What I think is hard is often women, they have a baby and they're so stressed to get back into their old self. And you know, the body resists that because it's like, we're not the same person anymore. And then they go really hard that side. And what I've seen is that a lot of women tends to, you know, suppress their hormones because they go way too hard after. So, but postpartum is, yeah, a time to really like love yourself, nourish yourself, and bring some strength training, and then as your body heals, then you can ramp up. But yeah, listening to the body is so important.
Listening to the body. Well, I'll tell you what, and any guy or girl listening to that, they're going to learn a lot right there.
Can I on this type of question? Because,
absolutely.
Because it's not like, yes, there's obviously like some really specific things here for like what we're talking about, whether it's like menstrual cycle or postpartum, but I think kind of even broader, what you're talking about is when you have any type of medical consideration, right? So whether it's like an injury or you've got a medical condition or it's what time of the month it is, or you just had a baby, or maybe you're recovering from a surgery, you know, I think one of the best skills that people can develop, especially as they get older, and most of the people who are with us this is not their first rodeo. This is not their first time training. They've been doing it for a while. Maybe they came from CrossFit. They've gotten a bunch of reps under their belt, right? So they're not beginners. You should be developing your intuition around training, right? And some people call it like, oh, training intuitively. What does that mean? Oh, listen to your body. Well, yeah, the body can have a say, but the body does not have the only say. Okay. Same thing, like, you know, listen to your mind. But when you go into a gym, let's say you're in a session, regardless of what period of time you're in with your menstrual cycle, you know, and you're in the gym and you're feeling real good and you're feeling real strong, you know, you don't want to tell yourself, oh, I shouldn't be strong right now because according to my menstrual cycle, I'm not supposed to be strong. If you're feeling good, that's training intuitively. Push a little bit.
Yeah.
If you go in and you feel like dog crap, like, man, I'm really feeling weak, that's not the time to go for a PR. Despite that, on paper, you should be great. Technically speaking, right now, to science, I should get intuitively.
I agree so much with that. I feel like people, you know, the fact that people are asking about like training on the menstrual cycle is because I think there's a lot of things out there trying to make everything trendy. The baseline is you should know your body. You should know where you're at in your menstrual cycle because you'll know for yourself like what happens through it the same way I do. But yeah, at the end of the day, go to the gym, figure out how you feel, and then assess.
Training and body transformation is not a linear journey. Okay, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, you know, this way and that way. Overall, you want to see the trend going up, but it's like it does not work like that. You can be doing everything right, and nothing's happening, and then you do everything not so right, and you're making good progress. So like, you know, when Cammie's talking about like people making progress and when they might be able to lose more weight or less weight or this and that, it's like it ebbs and flows, and a lot of times like you're not in control of it, but you just listen, and when things are going good, push. And when things are getting really hard and not really moving and you're feeling run down, like take a beat, right? And sit out a rep and then come back. But the thing is just keep going. And then the final thing I want to mention is your mind will sometimes lie to you as well, right? And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. Like Cammie and I have trained for a lot of bodybuilding shows. We've done diets that are very, very hard, where we're really tired and we're really, you know, I don't want to say run down, but like we don't feel really strong. I can tell you how many times I've gone into a gym, touched the first weight and thought like, oh, this is not going to be a good day. Like this weight feels heavy. And then by somehow that day, I like, you know, squeak out a PR and something. So you don't know, you know, just because psychologically you don't feel great doesn't mean that physically you're not ready for it. So it's a combination of paying attention to all those things, but you know, see how it feels and try to use your intuition because you guys are smart. You've been doing this for a while. You don't have to second guess yourself. And what people will sometimes do is it's like paralysis by analysis, or it's like a protractor. It's not the exact perfect time to, and when you tell yourself a story, it becomes real. So just, you know, train intuitively is my message.
I think that's very helpful, especially because we're in a time now where everyone gets an abundance of information from, you know, reels and TikTok, and they say, okay, I got to train like this. I'm listening to my watch. And I think especially with not saying.
Yes, I'm listening to my watch. It's so funny. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just there's way too much fear that's being installed in people. That is like, you know, you can train like this, you can train like that, like do this, you gotta wait for this time of the day. You know, there's just so much, and it's like at the end of the day, look, we all know that a couple things are true, so let's stick to the true thing, like eat your whole food and do your training. We know for a fact that this will make you better.
And then there are like obvious things I think everyone knows, right? It was like, okay, if you're coming off of surgery, if you just had a baby, obviously don't go in the gym and like go 110%.
Yeah,
like, you know, if you get a cast off of a leg, don't like put 500 pounds on the bar. Give yourself time to progress up and to progress down. But it's really a long game, and that long game of consistency is really about you getting to understand the relationship of training and nutrition and lifestyle and doing what works most well most of the time for you. And so, you know, developing that skill is all part of it. And I wouldn't let what someone says about, you know, X, Y, or Z. I mean, information changes all the time, but you live in your body, so you're the expert.
Well, Dave, Cam, that was very awesome. So thank you for your input, your insight, and having both of you guys on. I think we should do this a little bit more often. So thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent, Anthony.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm glad I was able to contribute so much about women's health.
I'm so excited to contribute.
Maybe we'll do men's cycles next week. How's that? Actually, Dave, next week you're going to help me do a demo video on how to cut shirts for tanks. Okay, so we're going to cover that next week, everyone.
And then we can talk about menopause.
There we go. Menopause.
Yeah.
Menopause.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. I've seen it.
He's going through it now. Well, guys, thank you. I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. And we'll continue this next time.
Awesome.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.